The night was raw with fury as Evelyn stood on the cliff, her breath shallow, her emerald dress whipping in the storm winds. She whispered Adrian's name, her voice breaking with betrayal. Adrian turned away, his sword blazing with runes, his dark eyes shadowed with conflict. Evelyn's tears cut down her cheeks, each drop reflecting the cruel silver of the full moon. She remembered their kiss, the bond that once promised eternity, but now burned like shackles. Adrian's steps echoed with finality as sparks of magic chased him through the dark, leaving trails like broken promises. Evelyn clutched her chest as the earth trembled beneath her, her scream drowned in the storm's roar. The ocean raged below, swallowing her hope, yet her heart refused to surrender. Her destiny had been sealed with a kiss, but tonight fate tasted like betrayal. Evelyn staggered from the cliff, her breath ragged, whispering Adrian's name, though the storm stole her voice. She clutched her lips, the memory of their kiss burning like fire. She recalled the warmth, the promise, and now the chains of betrayal. Tears mingled with rain as she vowed to uncover the truth. "If fate cages me, I will fight," Evelyn said with trembling defiance. Shadows stirred at the forest's edge, whispering promises of power. Her heart ached, torn between fear and longing, yet her spirit refused to bow. Evelyn ran into the forest, her feet sliding across wet earth, thunder cracking above. Branches whispered like ancient voices, urging her deeper. She pressed her chest, feeling the fire where Adrian's kiss had branded her soul. "Why does it burn still?" she asked aloud. The runes shimmered faintly on her wrist, mocking her bond to Adrian. Her fear battled against her resolve. Despite betrayal, she felt his presence pulling her closer, demanding she follow. Determination replaced despair as she swore to master the power awakening inside her. Within the forest, Evelyn leaned against an ancient oak, her breath uneven. Magic pulsed beneath the soil, pulling her toward destiny. Voices whispered in the wind, urging surrender, yet she shook her head. "I will not break," she swore. Adrian's eyes haunted her memory, torn by love and betrayal, yet she clung to hope. Anger steadied her hands where grief once ruled. The forest shimmered as glowing eyes opened in the shadows. Evelyn straightened her back, her heart hammering as she prepared to face fate's cruel embrace. Evelyn's pulse raced as glowing eyes advanced through the forest. She gripped her dagger, steel cold against her palm. "I will not run," she declared, though her body trembled. The earth shifted as roots cracked beneath her boots. Lightning carved monstrous shapes into the trees. The kiss with Adrian seared in her memory, a curse she vowed to wield as a weapon. "If love is a curse, I will use it," she whispered fiercely. Her emerald dress billowed as she raised her chin, ready to face the storm's children with fire in her eyes. The storm quieted as Evelyn stepped deeper into the forest, her breath uneven, her eyes still wet with grief. She pressed her hand to her chest, whispering Adrian's name, though no answer came. The trees glowed faintly with runes etched into their bark, pulsing as if alive. Evelyn's heart throbbed with the bond she could not sever, and anger steadied her trembling steps. From the shadows, the mentor emerged, cloaked and worn, his gaze sharp yet weary. Marcus spoke, "You are bound to powers you do not yet understand." Evelyn's jaw tightened as she asked, "Then teach me before it consumes me." Marcus's silence weighed heavy, his expression torn by secrets. The storm clouds parted, revealing a cruelly beautiful moon above, and Evelyn knew her path would no longer be guided by love alone, but by destiny's hand. Evelyn studied Marcus, her chest still heaving as she demanded answers. Marcus's eyes softened, though his voice carried weight. "The kiss was no accident, child. The bond is ancient, older than kingdoms." Evelyn shook her head, fury burning beneath her sorrow. "Adrian would not betray me without reason. I must know the truth." Marcus placed a trembling hand on the runes, glowing faintly on her wrist, his expression clouded with regret. "Truth is not always salvation. Sometimes it is a curse." Evelyn pulled her hand back, sparks dancing across her skin, as if the bond itself had heard. "Then I will carve my fate," she declared, her voice sharp. The forest hummed with unseen power, branches swaying as if stirred by destiny itself. But Marcus turned away, his cloak fluttering, hiding the sorrow etched in his eyes. The wind shifted, carrying whispers from the forest's heart. Evelyn followed Marcus reluctantly, her eyes scanning shadows that felt alive. "Why hide the truth?" she pressed, her voice sharp with need. Marcus sighed, "Because knowledge demands sacrifice. Are you ready for the cost?" Evelyn clenched her fists, her defiance glowing brighter than her fear. Her mind swirled with images of Adrian, his eyes torn between love and betrayal, his sword glowing with cursed runes. The silence between them grew heavy as the forest grew darker. Evelyn's steps slowed, her pulse quickening as shapes moved just beyond her sight. Marcus's hand gripped his staff, his voice low and urgent. "The bond has drawn enemies here. Stand tall, child, or the night will claim you." Evelyn steadied herself, the fire in her soul rising against the storm of shadows. The first growl shattered the silence, low and hungry, echoing through the trees. Evelyn froze, her dagger glinting faintly at her side. Marcus stepped forward, his staff glowing with ancient light. "Do not falter," he ordered, his voice like stone. Shadows slithered between the trunks, eyes glowing with unholy hunger. Evelyn's breath caught, fear crawling through her body, yet anger steadied her hand. She remembered Adrian's betrayal, the burn of his kiss, and her vow to master this bond. "I will not run," she whispered fiercely. Sparks lit her wrist, swirling into her palm as energy gathered. Marcus's eyes widened briefly, as if he had seen this before, and dread shadowed his features. The forest roared with unseen creatures closing in, the night alive with menace. Evelyn raised her chin, heart thundering, ready to face the monsters. The shadows lunged, and Evelyn struck, her dagger slashing through darkness as sparks erupted from her hand. The creatures shrieked, their forms dissolving into mist. Marcus raised his staff, light bursting outward, scattering the swarm. Evelyn staggered but stood tall, her chest heaving, emerald dress torn, her eyes fierce. Marcus's voice trembled. "You are stronger than I feared." Evelyn's lips curved in defiance. "Not fear, hope. I will not be broken." Yet as the last shadow dissolved, Evelyn felt Adrian's presence pulse through her bond, his sorrow echoing in her soul. She gasped, clutching her chest, torn between fury and longing. Marcus turned away, his expression grim, whispering words Evelyn did not hear. Above them the moon burned brighter, its silver glow a cruel reminder that love and destiny had become one and the same. Evelyn walked beside Marcus, though her heart beat with unease. The bond with Adrian tugged at her soul, stronger with each step. She clenched her fists, whispering, "I cannot escape him." Marcus's voice was grim. "Bonds born of moonlight are never broken, only tested." Evelyn's eyes flashed with fire. "Then I will master it before it masters me." The forest path opened to a clearing where shadows bent unnaturally. Evelyn froze as Adrian stepped forth, sword in hand, his eyes dark with torment. The sight stole her breath. "Why, Adrian?" she cried, her voice breaking. He raised his weapon, his silence more painful than words. The bond seared her chest with unbearable heat. Betrayal and longing warred inside her, pulling her apart. The storm within mirrored the storm above, and Evelyn braced herself for the truth she feared. Adrian's voice finally broke the silence, low and heavy. "Evelyn, this bond is a curse. It will destroy you if you do not let go." Her breath caught as she shook her head, anger trembling in her voice. "You think I can abandon what binds us? You think I will forget that kiss?" Adrian's grip tightened on his sword, his jaw rigid with guilt. "If I stay, you will die. If I leave, you may survive." Evelyn's tears shimmered in moonlight as she whispered, "Survival without you is no life at all." Marcus watched in silence, his expression unreadable, but his eyes glimmered with hidden sorrow. The bond pulsed between Evelyn and Adrian, raw and fierce, an invisible chain that neither could sever. The forest seemed to hold its breath, as if fate itself leaned closer to witness their pain. The bond flared with unbearable heat, forcing Evelyn to stumble. Adrian's sword hummed with the same cursed energy, its runes blazing like fire. Evelyn gasped, clutching her chest as the memory of their kiss surged. "Adrian, it burns me alive." His eyes softened, grief shadowing his face. "It burns me too." Marcus raised his staff, light flickering along its edge. "This bond was forged long before your choice, Evelyn. He was meant to protect you, but the curse has twisted its purpose." Evelyn's rage overcame her fear as she shouted, "I will not be bound by a destiny I never chose." Her hands glowed, sparks igniting between her fingers. Adrian's gaze was torn between duty and love, his silence saying more than words. The night thickened around them, the forest quivering as though alive with their pain. A figure stepped from the shadows, cloaked in silver light. The sidekick, Rowan, appeared, his grin masking unease. "Always in the middle of storms, aren't you?" he teased, though his hand trembled on his dagger. Evelyn's lips curved faintly, relief mixing with fear. "Rowan, you should not be here." Rowan's eyes flickered toward Adrian, suspicion etched across his face. "Should I leave you with him then?" Adrian's jaw tightened, his silence sharp. Marcus raised a hand to quiet them. "This is no place for quarrels. Darkness listens." Evelyn turned to Rowan, her voice steady. "Stay close. If I fall, protect the truth." Rowan's grin faded, replaced by grim resolve. "Always." The forest groaned as if awakened, and the bond pulsed violently, dragging Evelyn and Adrian toward an unseen fate. The air cracked with a roar as shadows surged from the trees, monstrous shapes lunging forward. Evelyn's dagger flashed as she struck, sparks bursting around her. Adrian moved with swift precision, his sword slicing arcs of light against the creatures. Rowan stumbled but fought, his dagger quick despite fear. Marcus unleashed light from his staff, scattering beasts into smoke. Evelyn's pulse thundered as the bond seared her, Adrian's pain echoing through her veins. "We fight together or we fall," she cried. Adrian's voice broke. "I will protect you, even if it damns me." Rowan shouted, "Less talking, more stabbing." His forced humor cracked under strain, yet it kept Evelyn steady. As the creatures dissolved, the forest fell silent again. But the bond's fire raged fiercer, promising that their war had only just begun. The forest grew silent after the battle, but Evelyn felt no peace. Her chest burned with the bond, Adrian's pain echoing in her veins. She turned to him, eyes fierce. "You fight by my side, yet you betray me in silence." Adrian's jaw clenched, his sword lowering. "I never wished to betray you, but fate bound us to a curse I cannot undo." Rowan's gaze darted between them, his grip tightening on his dagger. Marcus's voice broke the tension, deep and heavy. "The curse is older than both your lives. You are pawns in a game that began centuries ago." Evelyn's tears shimmered, but anger steadied her trembling. "I will not be a pawn." The clearing quivered, shadows bending like smoke. From the darkness a figure emerged, once a hero, now broken by darkness. The fallen hero. Dorian, his eyes hollow yet burning with familiar sorrow. Evelyn froze as she recognized Dorian, once a protector, now a shadow of himself. Her voice shook. "Dorian, what have you become?" His laugh was bitter, sharp. "What you fear, Evelyn. A man consumed by love twisted into ruin." Adrian stepped forward, anger flashing in his eyes. "You chose this path. You betrayed us all." Dorian's gaze cut through him, full of pain. "I was betrayed first. Love left me hollow, and power filled the void." Evelyn's chest ached as the bond pulsed violently, linking her to both men. Rowan muttered, "Well, this just got worse," his voice breaking the tension but unable to mask fear. Marcus raised his staff, warning in his voice. "Do not test the wrath of one bound by despair." The clearing darkened, shadows curling like serpents at Dorian's feet, ready to strike. The ground split with a crack as Dorian unleashed his power, shadows clawing upward like serpents. Evelyn stumbled, clutching her dagger, sparks flashing across her palm. Adrian moved to shield her, his sword igniting with blue fire. "Stay back, Evelyn," he commanded. Her eyes flared, defiant. "No, I will not hide behind you." Dorian's gaze lingered on her, pain shadowing his anger. "You remind me of who I once was, and it is agony." Rowan lunged forward, striking a shadow with his dagger, muttering, "Less drama, more stabbing." Marcus planted his staff into the soil, light spreading in waves to push back the dark. Evelyn's power surged uncontrollably, the bond fueling her rage. Sparks burst from her hands, striking shadows with force. The clash of light and darkness shook the clearing, a storm born of broken hearts and unyielding fate. The clash grew fiercer, light and shadow colliding in violent bursts. Evelyn's body shook as the bond seared her chest, Adrian's anguish flowing into her veins. She screamed his name, and his sword blazed brighter in response. Dorian staggered, his face twisting in torment. "You feel it too, don't you? Love, the sweetest poison." Adrian shouted back, "Love is strength, not ruin." Dorian roared, his power lashing out in a wave of shadows that hurled Rowan to the ground. Marcus knelt beside him, staff shielding them from further harm. Evelyn stepped forward, her hands glowing, her voice breaking. "If love is poison, then let me drink it, and I will turn it into fire." Her sparks exploded, burning shadows into ash. For a moment, even Dorian faltered, his hollow eyes softening with what remained of the man he once was. The shadows dissolved into mist, leaving the clearing heavy with silence. Dorian staggered, his power waning, his breath ragged. Evelyn stepped closer, her eyes filled with sorrow. "You don't have to be lost forever." For an instant, his expression softened, a flicker of the protector he once was. But bitterness drowned it as he whispered, "It is too late." Adrian moved between them, sword raised, his voice sharp. "If you strike again, I will end you." Dorian smirked faintly, though his eyes glimmered with pain. "You already have." With that, he vanished into the shadows, leaving only silence and sorrow behind. Evelyn sank to her knees, clutching her chest as the bond burned fiercely. Rowan rose slowly, muttering, "I really hate dramatic exits." Marcus placed a hand on Evelyn's shoulder, his eyes grim. This was only the beginning. The night deepened as Evelyn followed Marcus to an ancient ruin hidden within the forest. The bond throbbed in her veins, each step heavier than the last. Adrian walked beside her, silent but tense, his sword dim at his side. Rowan trailed close, muttering about cursed adventures, though fear flickered in his eyes. Marcus stopped at the ruins, his staff glowing faintly as he whispered, "Here lies the truth." Evelyn's chest burned, her voice unsteady. "What truth?" Marcus's face hardened, sorrow lining his eyes. "The kiss was no accident. It was a ritual, binding you to Adrian through the oldest magic." Evelyn staggered, her hand pressed to her lips, betrayal flooding her veins. Adrian's head dropped, guilt written across his face. Rowan swore under his breath, breaking the silence. The ruins glowed faintly, as if the stones themselves pulsed with their shared secret. Evelyn's voice cracked with fury. "You knew. You let it happen." Marcus's face turned grim, his voice steady. "Without the bond, you would already be dead. The ritual saved you." Adrian's eyes burned with guilt. "I should have told you, but I feared you'd hate me." Evelyn's tears fell freely, her voice sharp. "You stole my choice." The ruins pulsed brighter, ancient runes crawling across the stones like veins of fire. Rowan stepped back, muttering, "Oh great, glowing death rocks. Just what we needed." Marcus ignored him, his staff trembling in his grasp. "The prophecy is clear. The Moonlight Kiss does not bind you by love alone. It binds your souls to the fate of this world." Evelyn's heart pounded as the bond flared violently, the truth pressing down like chains she could not break. The runes ignited, flooding the clearing with silver fire. Evelyn gasped, the bond burning hotter, her knees buckling. Adrian caught her, his voice urgent. "Stay with me, Evelyn." She shoved him back, fury flashing through her pain. "You cursed me." Adrian's face twisted with anguish. "No, I saved you." Rowan's hand gripped his dagger, ready but unsure. Marcus raised his staff, voice booming. "The bond cannot be undone, only embraced. Together you are the key to breaking the curse of this land." Evelyn's eyes widened as the fire etched itself onto her skin, glowing marks swirling across her arms. "I am no key," she cried, sparks bursting from her hands. Adrian stepped forward, his sword glowing with the same fire, his voice firm. "Then we will fight fate together." Their bond blazed so fiercely that even the ruins trembled. The ruins shook violently, stones splitting as shadows spilled from the cracks. Evelyn staggered back, her glowing arms trembling. Adrian rushed to shield her, his sword slicing at the first wave of creatures. Rowan cursed, slashing with his dagger, his face pale but determined. Marcus raised his staff, beams of light scattering the shadows. Evelyn cried out, the bond blazing so violently that her scream shook the ruins. Adrian gasped as the same pain seared through him, their souls locked together in torment. Dorian's voice echoed from the shadows, mocking and sharp. "You are bound not by love, but by chains of power. A curse mistaken for salvation." Evelyn's tears glittered as rage overtook her. "Then I will turn this curse into strength." Sparks erupted, blasting shadows apart. For a heartbeat, the ruins glowed brighter than the moon itself. The battle ended in silence, ruins smoking with silver fire. Evelyn collapsed, clutching her chest, her breaths ragged. Adrian knelt beside her, his voice soft. "You are not alone." She turned away, whispering, "You made me a prisoner of fate." His face broke with sorrow, but he did not leave. Marcus's staff dimmed, his voice grave. "The prophecy is true. If you do not master the bond, the world will fall." Rowan muttered, "Well, that's cheerful." Evelyn's eyes narrowed, determination replacing despair. "Then I will master it. But I will not be a puppet." Adrian reached for her hand, hesitant but hopeful. She allowed his fingers to touch hers, their bond pulsing in unison, stronger than before. The ruins quieted, the fire fading, but the truth remained. Their love was no longer just their own. It carried the weight of destiny itself. The ruins trembled as the bond surged to its breaking point, silver light cracking through the stones. Evelyn fell to her knees, clutching her chest as the fire seared her veins. Adrian dropped beside her, his hand steady on her shoulder. "Stay with me, Evelyn." Her voice shook with rage. "This bond is killing us." Marcus lifted his staff, light spilling in waves. "If you do not master it now, the curse will consume you both." Rowan drew his dagger, fear masking his attempt at humor. No pressure at all. Evelyn's tears mixed with fury as she stood, sparks erupting from her palms. "Then I will end this, even if it burns me alive." Adrian rose with her, his sword glowing brighter, the same fire in his eyes. Together they faced the storm gathering above, ready for the final trial. The sky split with thunder as the antagonist appeared. Lord Malric cloaked in darkness, his eyes like burning coals. Evelyn staggered, her body trembling under the weight of his power. Adrian stepped forward, blade raised. "This ends tonight." Malric's voice was cold. "No, boy, it begins." He lifted his hand, shadows twisting into monstrous forms. Rowan cursed, slashing at the first of them. Marcus slammed his staff to the ground, light scattering across the battlefield. Evelyn gasped, her bond pulling her forward like a chain. He is after the bond itself, she realized. Malric's lips curled in a cruel smile. "The kiss was never yours. It was mine. A spell cast long ago binding you to my will." Evelyn's heart shattered at the revelation, but her anger burned brighter. "Then I will break your curse with my fire." The battle erupted, chaos spilling across the ruins. Evelyn unleashed sparks that tore through shadows, her body trembling as the bond scorched her veins. Adrian fought with precision, his blade a blur of silver fire. Rowan stumbled, slashing wildly, yet his strikes found their marks. Marcus stood tall, his staff glowing brighter with each wave of light. Malric moved through the chaos, his cloak of shadows absorbing their power. "You are nothing without me," he thundered. Evelyn screamed, her voice shaking the air. "I am not your puppet." Sparks blazed around her, brighter than before, her defiance igniting her strength. Adrian's gaze locked with hers, his voice breaking through the storm. "We fight together, or we die together." Evelyn nodded, their bond flaring violently, uniting their souls as one against the tide of darkness. The bond flared so violently that Evelyn and Adrian both screamed, collapsing for a moment as their souls clashed under the weight of the curse. Malric laughed, his voice cutting like a blade. "You cannot fight what you are." Evelyn forced herself up, sparks crawling across her skin. Adrian staggered beside her, his sword pulsing with light. "We are not yours," he growled. Marcus shouted, "Now, join your powers before the curse consumes you." Rowan stood beside them, bruised but defiant, muttering, "Let's hope this doesn't kill us all." Evelyn clasped Adrian's hand, their bond blazing like fire. Sparks and swordlight fused, creating a beam of radiant energy that tore through the shadows. Malric shielded himself, but cracks split across his cloak, his eyes narrowing with fear. For the first time, the tide began to shift. The final clash erupted, the ruins glowing like molten silver as Evelyn and Adrian stood united. Their bond no longer burned with pain but with fire of choice. Together they unleashed a torrent of light that shattered Malric's shadow cloak. He screamed, the sound shaking the earth, his form dissolving into smoke. Rowan fell to his knees, exhausted but grinning weakly. "Please tell me that was the end." Marcus leaned heavily on his staff, his voice hoarse. "Not the end, but a beginning." Evelyn collapsed into Adrian's arms, tears streaming down her face. "We did not break the curse," she whispered. Adrian held her close, his voice steady. "No, we became stronger than it." The ruins settled into silence, the storm parting above, revealing the moon brighter than ever, as though blessing their defiance. The ruins lay in silence, the storm finally gone. Evelyn stood unsteadily, her body aching, her emerald dress torn and bloodstained. Adrian steadied her, his arm firm around her shoulders. Rowan rose slowly, his smirk weak but genuine. "Well, if this isn't victory, it's the best imitation I've seen." Marcus exhaled heavily, lowering his staff, his face etched with exhaustion. Evelyn turned to Adrian, her eyes raw. "We survived, but at what cost?" His voice was soft but steady. "The cost of freedom is always heavy." She touched her lips, remembering the kiss that had bound them. Yet now it felt different, no longer chains, but choice. For the first time, Evelyn felt the weight of destiny lift slightly from her chest. The moon glowed above them, not cruel, but almost tender. Evelyn stepped forward, her gaze on the broken ruins. The runes had gone dark, the once living magic now silent. Marcus joined her, his tone solemn. "The prophecy is fulfilled, yet its shadow lingers. The bond remains." She closed her eyes, feeling Adrian's presence within her, no longer searing but still unyielding. "Then we decide what it means," she whispered. Adrian's hand brushed hers, hesitant. "Our love no longer belongs to fate. It belongs to us." Rowan groaned dramatically. "Finally, less doom and more kissing, please." Evelyn laughed softly through her tears, the sound fragile yet hopeful. She turned to Marcus. "You taught me wisdom, but now I must forge my own path." His eyes softened, proud yet sorrowful. "You are ready, Evelyn, ready to defy even the stars." The group left the ruins, the forest quiet once more. Rowan led with a swagger despite limping slightly, muttering, "If I survive one more curse, I'm charging double." Evelyn smiled faintly at his words, but her thoughts were heavy. Adrian walked at her side, his silence filled with unspoken emotion. Finally he said, "I feared the bond would destroy us, but it gave me you." Evelyn's heart softened, her voice trembling. "I feared it would cage me, but it gave me strength." Marcus walked behind them, his staff tapping against the earth. He whispered softly, as if to himself, "Love, not destiny, is the truest magic." The path ahead was uncertain, but for the first time, Evelyn felt she had chosen it, and that choice made her stronger than fate itself. As they reached the cliff where it all began, Evelyn stopped. The ocean stretched beneath the full moon, waves calm now, no longer a storm. She turned to Adrian, her chest heavy with words unsaid. "The kiss began as a curse," she whispered, her voice trembling. Adrian stepped closer, his eyes locked on hers. "Then, let us make it a promise." Rowan groaned, "Do it already before the moon sets." Marcus chuckled softly, though his eyes shone with tears of relief. Evelyn's heart pounded as Adrian leaned closer, his hand cupping her cheek. This time, when their lips met under the moonlight, it was no spell, no chain, but choice. The bond pulsed with warmth, no longer agony, but a tether of love and defiance. The night seemed to hold its breath, sealing their vow. The kiss lingered as the waves crashed gently below, the moonlight blessing them in silver fire. Evelyn pulled back, her eyes glistening, her voice steady. "We are no longer bound by fate. We are bound by choice." Adrian held her close, his heart in his gaze. "Then let us fight for that choice, always." Rowan clapped his hands. "Wonderful. Now let's not forget the part where we live long enough to enjoy it." Marcus looked to the horizon, his face lined with wisdom and weariness. "The war of magic is not yet over, but tonight, hope has won." Evelyn raised her chin, her spirit blazing. "Then, let the world come. I will meet it with love." The final image was her silhouette with Adrian's, framed by the moon, eternal in defiance and devotion.